Welcome back to On the Same Team. Today, blessed to be sitting down with a national champ, Ryan Deakin. Ryan knows what it takes to build a championship mindset. He is, like I said, a former NCAA national championship wrestler for Northwestern University, and he's translated that elite level of discipline from the mat right into the business world. After an impressive collegiate career, picking up degrees in economics and management, Ryan went on to coach at Stanford before pivoting into a sales and entrepreneurship role that he's in now. He's a co-founder of Iron Summit, a fitness, media, and strength training company that helps people build foundational habits to live their best, healthiest lives. In this episode, we're diving into how the lessons learned in high stakes wrestling apply to building a brand, adapting to change, and leading a life of impact. You're ready for a great conversation with Ryan? I'm pumped to chat with him.
So what took you from Colorado to Chicago?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I guess just like everybody else, like you going through the recruiting process, you're kind of looking at, what you want to do, um, wrestling wise. But like, I really think there's three main factors, and I'm kind of a visual person, so I'd kind of write it down and try to narrow down my school choices, based off of people that wanted you. Obviously, you got to have a spot on the team, and I think traveling growing up, going to Fargo, going to like Super 32, like just kind of going across the country for tournaments helped me get in front of coaches. This was back when they couldn't contact you as early as they can now, and so
Mhm.
like my school counselor would get a mail, a piece of mail. And so I recently moved back to Colorado maybe a year and a half ago. My mom was like, here's a box of your stuff, like go through it or throw it away. And it was pretty funny to look through some of the letters back then. Seems like a different timeline, especially spending some time coaching in college. We recruit on Instagram, DMing on Instagram and like sending emails and stuff. It's a lot different now. But anyways, I guess the three things that I was really looking at was one, academics. It's like, I want to use wrestling to open some doors for me. And I like school's important to me. So that was one. Two was the wrestling. Wrestling was important to me. At that time, it was, my whole life basically. Like good wrestling was important to me. And then three was the finances. And, I was lucky enough that, my parents were going to help me with school if I needed it. But like wrestling also opened these doors. And my parents, not that they looked at it as an investment, but they invested a lot in me, allowing me to go wrestle across the country, go to all these tournaments, do all these things. So, there's a piece of that as well. My dad would always tell me like, don't let the finances be part of the decision. So that was really cool. But also, I just felt like that was part of it as well. So those were the three things. I had my list narrowed down. It was kind of overwhelming. And basically it came down to like, what schools do you want to go to? My top five for like, you used to have five officials. I don't think that's the rule anymore. Um, was Northwestern, Stanford, Cornell, Virginia Tech, and then UVA. And so it really was going to be Stanford or Northwestern, which is kind of funny because I ended up coaching at Stanford after. But basically, what it came down to was, they're about the same distance. It was easy, like 2 hour flight from Colorado. Chicago's a huge hub. San Francisco's a huge hub. So that was a bonus to like being able to come home a direct flight. You go to like a Penn State, it's a full day of travel. You're not going home for 3 days for Thanksgiving, like a Chicago or,
Mhm.
or San Francisco. But basically, I was like academics were about the same. I think Northwestern was ranked sixth school in the country and Stanford was second. So like I was like these, pretty similar there. Northwestern was Big Ten wrestling. So I'm like, okay, plus for Northwestern. And then Stanford only had 4.5 scholarships at the time. We got it up to I think 6.5, and I think they're on track still to try to get to 9.9, but basically half of a fully funded program. So I had like a good scholarship offer for Stanford, but it was like, a 50% scholarship or something like that would be, you're still paying, I don't know, $40,000 a year for school. Um,
Mhm.
or you don't pay for school. And so like that was a big in my mind. And then I took my visits and Northwestern just seemed like a tight knit family. I really enjoyed like the teammates out there. I was walking into as well for the wrestling aspect. It was like Jason Surtsis had just won a national title at 149. Bryce Brewer was like this number one recruit at 157. I'm like, those are my two training partners at the weight that I think I'm going to be. And so Northwestern was ultimately the right decision for me in that aspect. And so I made that decision and didn't look back. There's a little craziness. After I made that decision, Drew Periano, who like rest in peace recently, just passed away, but he got fired from Northwestern. And so I was like, my phone was blowing up and it was, my senior year of high school in the fall. And people are like, "Hey, are you still gonna go to Northwestern?" And I was like, "You know what? I didn't pick this for one reason. Like, I'm gonna stick it out." And, Storney hired Andrew Howe and Cody Brewer, and it was the best thing that could happen. It was awesome. So, that was a long-winded way to say that's how I picked, Northwestern.
Yeah, I mean, good answer. I think, I think that process is probably different for everybody, right? Would you say, like, when you're thinking back on it and as a coach, obviously every school is a little bit different because Stanford had less scholarships to give, right? But how much of, the financial offer was a little bit of them saying, like, this is how much we want you and how much we.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, coaching, I'd like to think that it was Borelli and Ray Blake at the time. Like, it was they were like, "Listen, this is a really good offer for Stanford." I
Mhm.
mean, a normal wrestling school with 9.9 scholarships. Let's say you got 30 guys on the team, some a little bit more, some a little bit less. Like, it's really hard to have a full ride guy on your team. And usually the way in my experience it goes, there's probably two, maybe three guys on full or close to full scholarships and everybody else on partials and financial aid or just nothing. So I'd like to think they're being genuine. It was a tough call on that end, but also, at the time, Stanford was like, "Hey, this is a great athletics or academic school," but, like, the history of it, it wasn't like a wrestling school, this was a lot of the things that recently have happened with Stanford, so it was also, like, trying to chase my wrestling goals. I felt like the Big Ten, I'm gonna see the top of the top every weekend, and that seemed like a better path for me.
Travel is probably a lot less too, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Everything's
Yeah.
closer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, that part always, interests me. And it's changed so much too. I think, like, like with NIL and stuff. I mean, and I know that's a factor in wrestling. I don't know if it's as big a factor as it is in some other sports, but I know it is definitely a factor now. And, how much that's changed it. I don't know. I mean, were you guys in the NIL world when you were coaching? Was that something that was a
Yeah.
serious factor at Stanford?
Yeah, it's a Wild West. It was crazy. Wrestling's nuts. The NIL stuff is crazy now. It's kinda scary for wrestling
Hmm.
because there's probably 10 schools that can really fundraise, and then everybody else is a feeder team, like, just real honestly. So, yeah, it was definitely a factor. I enjoy, like, business side of stuff, so it was
Yeah.
interesting to kinda be like, "Let's build this economic model behind the team." But, like, even our fundraising, which I would say was, like, really good for Stanford was and we had an advantage where, getting a degree means something from Stanford where most guys are gonna finish out their 4 years there. You don't even it's pennies compared to like a Penn State or a Iowa or an Oklahoma State budget. So, like, if they really want the weight class, and they offer a couple $100,000 to a kid, like, can't really fault them for leaving?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, and I think that's, like, the reality too, and I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily, everybody wants wrestlers to make money, right? Like, we don't wanna be, like, the poorest sport of all time, and so I think some of that's, like, good, money's coming into the sport, like, people can afford to wrestle and afford to make a career out of it, like, those things are all good, but yeah, it is interesting, there's a huge gap. I heard a stat one time, this was probably 10 years ago when I was coaching about how Penn State had fundraised 10 times more than Iowa, and Iowa was the second highest fundraising school. And it's like that economics matter in wrestling too. I know we just want to say it's like the toughest, meanest, and best technique, but it's also the people that have the most money. I mean, it matters no matter what you're in, but the person that has the most money probably has the advantage.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I always say this, but I just think, like, NIL, the concept of it is good. The concept of a transfer portal is good. Together, it's a nightmare. Like, I don't know what the fix is, but, and I'm all for, like, student athletes having the power, and at the end of the day, too, like, it's a weird dynamic now, especially, like, there's a lot of wrestlers at college programs that are getting paid more than their coaches,
Yeah.
and their coaches are signing off on that unofficially, basically. It's just a weird and I kinda get it in football where it's like, right, the coach is making 7 figures, does it really matter if the kid's making a little more? But wrestling, you're talking about, like, I don't know, it's weird. It might be 4 times the salary of a coach, and then you're supposed to be the leader, and I don't know. It's a weird dynamic.
Yeah, that's probably about the only I mean, I don't know a lot of places where that's true, where the leader is making less than the producers, to
Yeah,
put it in like a sales term, right? Typically,
yeah.
sales leader makes more than the producer in pretty much everything. Yeah, yeah, that's an interesting. I've never looked at it from that standpoint, but yeah. Yeah, they'll I mean, it's gonna change. It's gonna keep changing, keep evolving. I mean, at some point, they're gonna figure it out, and it'll be, like, a little bit cleaner, I think, and there's probably gonna be a little less freedom in the transferring where, like, you're gonna have, like, "Oh, man, if I transfer, I'm gonna have to sacrifice something because I've committed to something, and I gotta stand by that legally," you know? I think that'll come at some point, but who knows?
I mean, coaches are already getting smart. I mean, we were talking about it, and I've been out of coaching for, I don't know, a year and a half now. But like, there's things you could do, right? Like you can say, hey, this NIL money is contingent on you graduating here. Like you get it after 4 years. So you're basically forfeiting all that money if you leave early. That being said, that doesn't really apply to a grad transfer. And anybody's got enough money, they can buy you out of a contract and the kid will come anyways, you know? So it's like, does it really matter? No. Does the school need you? And are they willing to put up money for you? Like you can get anybody at the right price, you know? So
Yeah.
I do think it will continue to evolve. I hope what doesn't happen is we don't just cut a bunch of wrestling programs because, like, you're not it had to have been
Competitive.
3 years ago, but North Dakota State, I think they had 17 guys in the transfer portal. It's like, how do you I don't know. It's a tough business model to be like, "Hey, hopefully we keep a guy for 1 or 2 years, and then our best guys get poached every year, and we have to restart." Like, I don't know.
Yeah. You need like a it's gotta be I heard a Dan Patrick comment one time about he said they need to model it after like professional soccer where, if you get this guy from this feeder program, you gotta pay that feeder program. So
Yeah.
now they're incentivized to grow your starters, right? Because they're gonna make a lot of money and they can have a great business plan that way.
Yeah.
And if you create a program that competes at that higher level, now you move up there and now you get a bigger piece of the pie. I was like, dang, that'd be interesting.
How do
And
you
he
enforce
also
that?
what?
How would you enforce it? Because it is a cool concept.
Yeah. I mean, he talked about basically like he sees these schools just leaving the NCAA too and like starting their own entity. Like he just thinks like they really have the power the NCAA doesn't, and they don't really need that organization anymore to be successful. And so that was like his vision. I don't know. It was just an interesting thing to like process. Like, man, that's a yeah, interesting potential, right? And who knows if it'll happen. I'm sure the NCAA is going to fight like crazy not to lose the revenue. So sure there'll be a lot of legal battles if that ever happens. But so you wrestled at Northwestern, obviously had a phenomenal career in it as a national champ. What was like? What do I do now? What was the process? I mean, you obviously got a degree. I think what did I read you're an economics major?
I did econ for my undergrad, and then I did a master's of science in management studies at Kellogg School of Management, and then I did a grad certificate in specialized studies. So I was like, I want to do something in the business world eventually. Yeah, it was tough, man. Like your whole life, you're chasing something, and then you're like, wow, okay, it's done. Yeah, So that was kind of interesting. I was trying not to think about it my senior year, and basically just like, hey, I'll figure this out when I'm done. I was on the national team, so I was like, hey, I'm gonna keep competing for a little bit. I basically was looking at RTCs, and then my girlfriend at the time, wife now, she uh, she was looking for like to do clinical research in a neuroscience lab. And so it was like pretty niche what she was looking for, and I was looking pretty niche. And so kind of like part of our conversations, I'd talk to an RTC coach and be like, hey, I'd love to, like, do you have connections with the school? Could you get, my wife into this program, or could you introduced me to somebody. And so that was kind of tough trying to thread the needle. And then just like stars aligned, Rob Cole called me. I was like, hey, basically, you can compete. I need you to sit in the corner and like help coach too and recruit, but like do your training and come on out here. And my wife happened to be in a second round interview at a neuroscience lab at Stanford. And so it's like, sweet, this sounds good. She got the job. I got the job, and we went and checked it out, and, you know, packed our bags like a couple days after graduation and like drove across the country. So that was kind of that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, yeah. Yeah, it was cool. Really, like, looking back was pretty stressful, like, trying to thread the needle, and then it just, like, all worked out really well.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So your wife, I mean, what does she do now?
Yeah,
I'm
she's get
interested.
yeah, so she's getting her PhD in neuroscience and behavioral genetics. So, we spent 2 years in the Bay Area. I was coaching at Stanford, kind of realized like the RTC thing, had a couple partners leave, kind of fell in love with the coaching aspect, realized like I'd probably need to move to like Michigan or Penn State, just real honestly to kind of focus on just training and freestyle. And so it was like, all right, I'm going to go into this coaching thing, was really leaning into it, enjoying that. And then my wife got into a PhD at CU Boulder, and so I'm from here. So it was a good time to pivot again and kind of get close to my family. And then she's doing that now, and I yeah got out of coaching college wrestling.
So were you basically coaching in RTC the entire time you were at Stanford?
First few months, it was pretty obvious, like, fairly soon that, like, the RTC wasn't what it was when I committed there kind of, and basically the RTC practices were, like, with the college guys, and so which is great, but, like, you basically are wrestling folk style and not freestyle, and then, like, when I was going to Stanford, Vincenzo Joseph was there, and then so
Mhm.
was Tyler Berger. I'm like, "Sweet, I got 2 great partners." Both of them left. So then I'm like, I had Shane, but he was only there for a year. He was on, folk style track. It was just like it wasn't built out like a professional, like, I don't mean that the way it sounds, like everything was great, but I was like, wrestling's too hard to like kind of half do this. I need to go not sit in the office all day and do work. I need to like come in, get a lift in the morning, go home, relax, like get some fuel, come back, do a full freestyle practice, and then, live that professional athlete life. And I was kinda, like, at a point in my life where it wasn't worth the sacrifice to move away from my wife and go to, like, a Michigan or a Penn State, and then I also just felt like I kinda slayed my demons with the sport, and at the same time, I was getting pulled with, like, the selfless coaching is taking you one way and selfish training is taking you another, and it was just, like, a really cool opportunity. Fell into coaching on accident, and, like, watching them kinda compete and get better and, like, helping your guys was, like, super rewarding that I didn't realize was such a cool opportunity. And so, yeah, just started leaning into that. Just kind of made sense to after a while, I was like, listen, I'm done competing. I'm just gonna full, step into this coaching thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome, and I mean, like, that's the truth, right? Okay, sometimes you're like, "Man, this other thing is awesome. I loved every second. I mean, I'd wanna do it the exact same, but I'm pretty pumped for this next stage too," and I always think, that I've been lucky that that's been most of my life. The transitions have been easy for me. Like I've been like, oh man, I'm ready for this next part and I'm all in on this. And I don't regret like jumping into something else and being like, this is super passionate, a passion of mine now, Yeah, I think sometimes that transition is really hard for people, but like when you feel like, man, this is a good thing to be in, yeah, I don't think you need to regret like not doing more in the other thing either. It's like, man, like yeah. And I always told my guys too, like most people have, I think it's on average 3 careers now. I'm like, so, like you got to be kind of good at being like, hey, this part is over. I'm moving on to this next thing and be all in because like that's just the reality. I mean, people want people that have been cross trained, all about this world over here. And we want that expertise and we're going to really put you in a position to dominate this field because you know all this other stuff, right? Like that's the world we live in now too. So that the ability to transition and move from one thing to the other, I think is a valuable talent that people need to not be fearful of and like lean into because yeah, all your past experiences should help you in the new world and you can't be afraid to jump in there even though you're like, man, I don't know what I'm doing, but like I'm excited about it and I think it's somewhere I could be great. So that's cool. So you're in Boulder now?
Yep. Yeah, yeah, we moved out here probably a year and a half ago. One last thing on that last point too. I do think it is human nature to like resist change. Like we're kind of, the devil is kind of like the comfortable, easy route. I get it too. Like I definitely probably am more that way too. I have some buddies that like they have no problems packing up, doing something different right away. But I have found the more I lean into those uncomfortable like things you're not sure of, like it's usually the best thing and you grow the most from it. So yeah, it is an interesting like being able to adjust and adapt. And the other thing with wrestling too, as you get older, like the international stuff's really cool, but I feel like there's this pressure, especially towards the end of college and then after college of like, hey, this is an awesome sport, but this life skill, unless you're going to go into coaching as a profession, like it's kind of run its course. I don't want to say it's like not a valuable skill anymore, but it's like not, I don't know. You're almost at a point where you're like, hey, I've done this for 20, plus years. I'm ready to try something new. And it's time to like put real points up on the board and like life. And so that was kind of like, I think part of that pressure I felt too, to like move on a little bit. So I don't know.
You said something in your podcast, like, you guys were talking in one of your episodes about NCAA tournament and, a lot of guys' best year is their junior year, right? And, as a coach, I always felt that because I just felt like they get to be seniors, especially at, at the level I was at, because there is no wrestling after your senior year, at the level we were at. It's like you're done. Ain't nobody calling you to ask you to go to an RT and do anything, right? Like it's all that's it. There's a clear stopping point. And guys would be like, damn, I don't know what's next, and they would start thinking about that like December, and their girlfriend would be like, "What are you doing after wrestling?" And like that stress would get to them, and it would factor into the entire success of their senior year and all the other things too. I mean, you're beat up, you've been wrestling for 20 years, like those things factor in too. But I just always seen like, the conversations weren't the same their senior year in January as they were their junior year in January, and like that just like kind of was always a factor. And some guys could get through it, but just as a whole, it's like, dang, senior year's tough.
Yeah, the mental aspect's such a big deal for sure. It is. It weighs on you a lot. I mean, you see it even now. Like a lot of the transfers, they do a lot worse their last year. And part of that's maybe a change of environment and health and whatever. But I think a lot of it too is like it just doesn't mean as much. It's kind of like getting stale. It's getting old, and I don't know. Hungry wolf hunts.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're 19, it is the most important thing in your entire world, right? And when you're 23 and you're at the end, like there are other things you're thinking about. And there's other things you're like, man, that sounds like it should be a priority. And I'm like, yeah, all those things give you an edge when you're like nothing else in the world matters. It makes
Yeah,
a difference.
it's beautiful, beautiful simplicity in college where like
Ugh.
there's one thing you care about. There's not a whole lot of responsibilities. Go to school, get that done, go wrestle. Try to have some fun. And that's about it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was that's what I tell people all the time, like, it was the greatest experience. I mean, I had
Yeah,
somebody just tell me what to do every day. I mean, I
yeah,
loved it. And some
gets
people are
planned out.
like, "Really? They just told you what to do and you like that?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's so easy." Like, I can go as hard as you want me to. It's like the deciding if I want to, that's
Yeah,
hard, but if you tell me to do it, I'm gonna do it. Like,
yeah,
I'm a simple human and I love it. So, I still love being coach,
yeah.
and
Did
that's how
did
we
you?
connected.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. How do you feel? Was it a tough transition for you after college to like, I don't know, the metrics in the real world are a lot different and a lot less, I don't know, tangible sometimes than like a wrestling metric. Did you ever struggle with that? Like for example, I always felt like, I don't know, on that simplicity vein, after like college wrestling, you're like, hey, I'm trying to win this tournament at the end of the year.
Mhm.
You know, I know what I'm training for every day. And then you get to the real life and it's like, you can do anything. Now pick what you care about, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was an assistant for 3 years, and really wrestling was still my number one focus, Probably my last year of being an assistant, I got a serious girlfriend, and she was kinda like, "What else are you gonna do in life?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And all those things started to really come into my brain and start to, consider them. And, yeah, that's probably when I was like, "Okay, I need to start measuring what I'm doing a little bit different," and it was hard, and it really probably got even harder when we got married and we had our first kid, and I was like, "Okay, like, just being a great coach and having a great team, like, that's it just didn't feel like enough anymore, right? Because now I gotta provide, and I wanna be a great dad and all those things, so my priorities 100% changed. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I still set goals, and, like, my only focus is hitting those goals. My goals are just way different, right? And they're not as measurable either, and you don't get the feedback that you do in wrestling. And I always talk to like my team now about that. Like so many things in life, you don't get the feedback. You have to self evaluate. We're in a sales world, we get feedback, and like we should feel blessed about that, whether it's good feedback or bad feedback. Feedback makes life easy. You can say, like, okay, I'm going to get better here. Or, like, this didn't work. I'm going to adjust. I mean, there's, you don't know what the feedback is. Like, your kid can be mad at you and he's loving what he's doing. Like the feedback is so jumbled and like just crazy. And it's hard to take it in and make adjustments and become better. And same thing as like running a business. Like financial feedback is pretty clear and straightforward. But like, being a manager of people, like that feedback is messy. And again, it's like that's going to a tournament and wrestle in a tournament, that feedback's awesome, right?
Yeah.
And you can watch film and say like, "That's obvious. Man, I'm an idiot. Why am I doing that? I'm gonna fix that this week, and I'm gonna go in the next week, and I'm not gonna do that same thing." Right? And yeah, so that again, simplicity was awesome, and you have people around you that can witness your mistakes too. And I mean, that was Made it easy. Yeah. Life is hard, and figuring out where your priorities are and all that stuff. Just much more difficult than wrestling mentally, I would say.
For sure.
I
Yeah,
think
it's
all
way
those
different.
physical challenges help you prepare for that too, though.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely think there's a lot of carryover, um, and life lessons, but it's not as straightforward as like, "Hey, go shoot for this goal." Like, there's a lot more nuance.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody that you were in the world with was going for the same thing too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
So I just had that conversation with somebody yesterday. It's like you don't know where that person is at. They might be reaching their goals right now, and you have to respect that, right? Because not everybody that's on this path is trying to be a national champ wrestler, right? And so you can't say like, oh, I think they're doing good or bad because you don't know what their goals are and you don't know where they're trying to get to or where they've been. So like it's none of it's as comparable and relative as wrestling. So yeah, fun stuff. But yeah, I mean, all right, we got to get out of the wrestling world. I want to talk about what you're in now. You're in Boulder, and from what I understand, you came to Boulder, you got into one industry, and now you've moved and become an entrepreneur, right?
Sorta. Yeah, I guess I do a little bit of everything, honestly. I think I watched my dad. My dad did real estate growing up, and I watched him, build his own business and like, there's obviously a lot of stresses with that and, everything relies on you at the end of the day. But then it was also really cool. I could see my dad he'd be at every single tournament, he'd take me to practices. I'd see him in the morning during breakfast. I think my senior year, I made it to like one Friday during wrestling season because we were in a different part of the country, going somewhere. And, um, that was normal to me. I was like, "Oh, my dad and I just go do this," but I, like, work now, and I'm like, you can't just take a Friday off every single week and, sometimes take 3 days off in a week, but my dad, had flexible hours, but that also meant, there might be a Saturday where, he was working all day showing houses or doing something, and so, kinda saw that, and at a young age was, like, interested in that stuff. My brother and I, we had, like, neighborhood lawn mowing businesses. We'd do different things for my dad with there was a lot of, like, I guess a financial crisis happened, and so there was a lot of foreclosures or stuff that his business was working with, and so we'd help with, like, trash outs in a property, mowing lawns, doing stuff like that, and then in high school, it was like, I didn't really have time for summer jobs. I worked, like, maybe 1 or 2 summers, but I was training all year and then going to Fargo and basically, like, would fund my, fund money with, like, trading wrestling shoes and, like, selling and reselling stuff, and so I always just kinda, like, was interested in that stuff. I also think it's a cool like entrepreneurship is, put the team on your back and figure it out, and I think it's kind of cool that you have this uncapped upside and it's kind of like wrestling, right? Like the more inputs you put in, the better output you're going to get. So after coaching I guess during coaching, the thing about coaching was like it was awesome. I enjoyed it, especially right after college. It was like college 2.0, but now I'm like one of the leaders. It was like it's the fun part of wrestling, except you don't get to compete, which sucks. But you also are like not cutting weight on these trips, and it's maybe 6 months older than some of the guys on the team at the time. So it was a lot of fun, and like the
Mhm.
camaraderie in the office was very similar to a wrestling team. But like had a lot of extra time too. Like we'd be on the road for a couple days in a row. We'd have a lot of like hotel time, stuff like that. And so a buddy of mine and we started like a podcast, like fitness media slash strength training company. And so we've been continuing to do that with Iron Summit. And so that's been awesome. And that's been something we've been building on the side. And then I was also, obviously coaching and then I was doing corporate finance for about a year and a half. And I just recently switched into like a SaaS sales position. So I'm doing that as well. Still coaching wrestling, doing some of that stuff. I'm generally interested in like a lot of like economic investing stuff. Would love to. I don't know. I mean, I've dabbled with like playing around with maybe doing some real estate stuff with my dad. I don't know if I'm going to do that currently. I'm interested in it. I don't know if I want to like full time do something like that. So kind of like spinning a lot of plates right now, trying to figure out, what I really want to hone in on and just like enjoying, I guess, being around a lot of different areas currently. So kind of all over the board, but like my main job is, SaaS sales right now and then building our podcast slash strength training company as well.
So your podcast strength training company started as just like, hey, this would be fun, or what was the conversation to get that rocking?
Yeah, my buddy Max, I met him through wrestling. He wrestled at Boulder High School. He's a couple years older than me, went to Lehigh, was an All-American for Lehigh, and we were doing some other business stuff. I was helping him with he's got a company that he started in college that he's currently working full time for now still. So he's just like an awesome human and like great businessman. And we're just kind of talking about it. And it's like, it'd be pretty cool. Like he owns a gym up in Vale. I'm like, you should do some social media stuff. Like I bet it would do pretty well. And like it's probably important for kind of like some of the things you're doing. And he's like, I hate that stuff. Why don't you do it? And I'm like, no, I hate that stuff. And so then it was kind of like, I'll do it if you do it. And so we just kind of started doing it. And it's become such a cool, like, I don't know if you felt this way, but just meeting so many interesting people, like expanding a network, having interesting conversations. It's been really fun, the podcast side. Then we're kind of refining and continuing to, add features to the business side as well. And I mean, I guess there's three different areas of the business really. And right now it's not a full-time thing for us. So which is kind of cool too, because it means we can build it the right way and we can take our time kind of refining stuff. And it's not like this pressure to live off of currently. But like it's like one, build the audience and there's ad revenue in terms of platforms, sponsorships, stuff like that. And so that's one part. And then the other part is like we do high ticket, like one-on-one coaching stuff with that, which has been really fun and just like really rewarding too. I think when people are healthy, they live their best lives. And so it's been really cool to kind of play a small part in people's lives with that stuff. And then the other ones like our pre-made strength training plans and stuff. So we'll drop new strength training plans, nutrition guides, like stuff like that. And basically that's like, somebody that wants to take their health more seriously, but don't want like the one-on-one touch points. And so it's been really interesting. Got to meet some really cool people. It's been really fun. Currently working too, like with some wrestling programs, which has been awesome. And then like a lot of our, high school athletes at at the club I coach at, like just getting them interested in strength training. And we just send them, free programs. And that's part of it. Cool. It's cool to see them kind of get into strength training with their buddies and like, just think it's such a big part of the sport as well, but just like greater life. I don't know. It's a good habit to have and get good foundation. I think doing hard things makes you a more well-rounded human being. I think it helps you. My goal is to be able to pick up my grandkids when I'm, 85 years old and live in an active lifestyle. And so I think those foundations are good to start when you're young. And it's been a fun journey doing that.
Yeah. Has the yes, those three parts of the business evolved from, hey, we're just going to do some social media to, like, this is fun, we're enjoying it. Can we make any money doing this? Or like, what was kind of the evolution? And
Yeah.
when did you start saying like, okay, let's create a vision for where this could go?
Yeah. I mean, I think social media is like a huge opportunity, but at the same time, like it's very saturated as well. I think it's like anything, like if you don't spend time at it, it's not going to grow, but it's something that like exponentially grows as well. Like every podcast you put out, like it's not a social media post where it gets buried, a week later. Like you go on YouTube and search 100 different podcasts and then like that stuff just stacks. So I think it's a cool opportunity. I watched my brother, a couple years before me start a podcast and they basically they're doing really well now. And like they have an awesome following and are doing some cool things with that. So like I was like, yeah, that's interesting. It was kind of more just a passion project to start. I think trying to figure out how far we want to take this thing. And I think that the biggest thing is like, hey, we gotta like it's gonna take 5 years of sucking before this gets into something good. And so I think we're just trying to stack that volume of let's continue to refine and get better at these things. There's definitely business opportunities that have arisen like because of that, but it's not like the main purpose isn't, hey, I need to be able to feed my family and like pay my mortgage this month. And so I think that's kept it cool too, where it's been really fun and just the opportunities to speak to some of these people. I think everybody likes to, most people, I guess, are even really busy people. They're like very gracious with their time to come on and like talk, chat. And you're like, wow, this is like really interesting. And uh, I don't know. I think it's a cool like legacy too, like to look back and be like, hey, what was I talking about when I was in my 20s versus 30s versus 40s with people? And, something ever happened to me and I had kids and they were able to like kind of know me through that. Like, it's kind of like a, I don't know, side thing too. So yeah.
I'd
What has
agree.
your experience been with podcasting?
I mean, I've enjoyed it a lot. It kind of just same thing. I hate social media. I spend very, very, very little time on there, but I want to I wanna be active in it from, like a connection standpoint, right? Like that is a great way to connect with people. And I like that part of it, right? I wanna continue to do that. So really that was it for me. I was like, I can connect people one on one. I can get a bunch of content from an hour long podcast and be consistently posting the content without actually, like in my opinion, creating any, right? Like I'm just enjoying the heck out of talking to people and like I think that's part of, what I loved about wrestling was the problem solving factor of it. Like I'm always trying to figure something out and learn something, like that was what motivated me in the sport. And I'm like, this is kind of the same thing, right? Like I love talking to people and like just digging in and like being like, oh, that's awesome. I want to know more about that. And it fires me up. And, I always leave every podcast with more energy than I went into it.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so it's like I just love that part of it. And I love that people are also, like it's fun to me now when people are like, "Oh, I'd love to be on your podcast." I'm like, we're just gonna talk and,
Yeah.
shoot the breeze, and but I remember the first time somebody asked me on podcast, I was like, that's awesome. I can't wait to do that, because I
Yep.
love listening to podcasts. Like I think all those factors, even somebody like a spotlight, they're super appreciative, they enjoy it. And yeah, I don't know. There's been no bad experiences. I'd say the one thing that, when people are like ask me about podcasting, I always tell them like, don't listen to any of your episodes right away, and I'm still probably pretty bad at it. It's like I just enjoy doing it, so I'm trying not to be overly critical of myself so I can keep enjoying it and I don't get like, super self-aware of saying too much or Riverside created like a year-long year word and mine was awesome. It was hilarious. I was dying. I'm like, man, I say that a lot, but I love complimenting people and telling them how awesome they are apparently.
Yeah.
But it was pretty funny. I had to laugh at myself. Yeah, podcasting's super fun.
Yeah, it's cool. I think, I mean, also to your point, it's kind of a good skill. Like public speaking is something we could all get better at. I think it is like cringy to hear yourself talk. I rarely listen to our episodes now, but I don't like cringe like when we first started. But I also have just kind of accepted. I'm like, listen, it's probably gonna be bad. I don't care. I'm enjoying it. And so like part of that too is like a little bit of a, I guess, a growth or getting out of my comfort zone area for me is like put yourself out there. Like I'm not gonna not do something because I'm scared to do it. I'm gonna just do stuff that I want to do. And I think there's definitely, I had somebody say something to me. They're like, "Oh, you say 100% all the time in your podcast or something like that." And I'm like, and sure, maybe I do. I don't care. It's whatever. But being able to like dig into people's lives, I think we don't do like very rarely do I get the opportunity to like sit down, even with like a close friend and just one-on-one talk for an hour about like what they care about, their life experiences, stuff like that. And I found myself like enjoying anytime I'm doing, I'm cleaning the house or I'm like mowing a lawn or, whatever I'm doing, I'm like listening to a podcast. And so I'm like, these are cool things. I'd like to do this. And we started doing it and it's been a lot more rewarding. Like you said, I come out of a conversation. I don't care like how tired or how long the day was. I have a podcast. I get done and I'm like amped up, ready to go. And it's just, I don't know, it's cool. And I think the network effects have been awesome. I think there's probably some public speaking, benefits, but really like at the end of the day, I think it's a fun thing to do. And I enjoy learning. I enjoy hearing stories. I enjoy like getting to know people deeper and like thinking through things because I don't get to do that, in everyday life as much. So yeah, the podcast has been like a blessing in disguise. Like we kind of started as like, yeah, maybe this would be fun. And it kind of turned into something cool.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And if 100% is the worst thing you say, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't care, whatever.
Hyping people up, right? I'm like, I think yeah, actually just, our mutual connection too of Enoch. I just referenced him the other day. I was talking to somebody and they're like, I just need to, be more positive. And I'm like, good vibes only.
Yeah.
That's all you need, good vibes only. And I told him like, that's, a guy who used to wrestle, his mantra. And like, it's huge, like that's his mantra, and how important it is. And he says it all the time and it's just the way he lives. And, so if 100% is like your mantra and you're just like always hyping people and wanting to go 100%, Like, man, that's pretty good. So, yeah, I don't think anybody should give you too much shit about that.
Nah, but it was funny too. It is, I don't know if you've noticed this. There's certain people in my life that will come up to me and like reference something from a podcast. And it's like amazing. You're like, I didn't even know you listened. It's kind of scary. I got to be a little careful about what I say, huh? Like, um,
Yeah.
but it's pretty cool too. You're like, there's certain people that like really support our podcast that never would have guessed would do that. It is interesting. It's been fun. And yes, it's a different experience for sure.
Yeah, I've had two college my college coaches on. Really enjoyed those. One was like 2.5 hours. I'm like, man, no one's gonna listen to that. But it was an awesome 2.5 hours for me. And I'd love to have my high school coach. He's pretty poor health now, but I was like, gosh, I wish I would have had him on. I'd have loved to listen to that in 30 years. Like going back to what you said about just kind of having a archive, of conversations is a pretty awesome benefit as well.
Yeah, for sure. Something that scares me a little bit is I'm like, you could probably anybody that has a significant amount of content out, like with AI, eventually you're gonna be able to like train an AI with it or like get some kind of I don't know, but maybe that's a good thing. But it is cool. It's kind of like I don't know, you're capturing a moment in time a little bit. I got a buddy that he's got a brain tumor and he's had a couple surgeries for him and they've kind of come back every couple years and he's like a huge fitness fanatic and we're going to get him on the podcast. He's kind of busy right now with some medical stuff, but I just love the idea of like talking to him and his mindset. 'Cause he's got such a unique story and God forbid something happens to him, like being able to have those conversations, it'd be really cool to be able to like go back and listen to those and like I don't know, being able to hear his voice through something like that and kind of capturing that moment, I think is pretty cool on this finite amount of time we're on this world.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's a cool thing. All right. I'm gonna ask you a few more questions and then wrap it up. Anything else you want to chat about that you want to hit on?
No, no, I think I'm good with whatever you want to go. I'm,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I got three questions to ask everybody. Number one is what's something that you do every day that you think is a huge part of your success?
That's a good question. Something that I do every day. I think I like mentally look at my day at the beginning of the day and try to like make sure that I plan out and like as best I can like decide, what I'm doing and potentially any pitfalls that could happen. That's like look at work meetings, what obligations do I have outside of that? What's something I've been putting off that I got to get done? What's my wife doing with her schedule? Where do I need support? Where can I be supportive? I don't always do that the best way, but I try to make sure that I have a general game plan in my mind before just like jumping into a day and getting blindsided by 10 different things.
Did you like visualize before your matches when you're in wrestling?
I wish I did it more. I did it a lot more towards the end of my career. I don't know if I ever figured that out as much. I definitely know that it's powerful. The science says it. It was like a little frou-frou for me. Like it just felt cheesy a little bit. But I do vividly like remember, especially before big matches, maybe more so to like put my mind at ease that I did it. I would sit down, maybe the week before and like every night visualize like wrestling a perfect match. I think something that I took a lot more seriously towards the end of my career that helped me was like just understanding like nerves a little bit more, like being able to recognize it, calm down, and then like push that out. And I think that, if you're in a big match and stuff starts going crazy, being able to like recognize like, hey, I'm getting a little anxious, stop like reacting and just like actually go back to the game plan. That helped me a lot where I'm like, okay, I'm not freaking out now. I'm like, I know this feeling. I understand this feeling. Like, it's all right. The crowd's getting into it. I gave up a takedown. Go get the next point. Like, get an escape, go score again. So, like, I don't know what you want to call that, but like mental stuff. I wish I worked with our sports psych more. I think I was somebody that kind of avoided that stuff. And towards the end, I definitely read a lot more books, did a lot more like, I don't know, mindfulness, if you want to call it that, and just
Mhm.
understanding, hey, I'm getting anxious. Like, that's all right. Let it go, get back to the task. And that helped me kind of lock in on those big moments.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's gonna get emotional and, like emotions gonna come up in a lot of different ways, right? Whether it's anxiousness or nervousness or excitement. Yeah, that like self-realization that these are happening. And yeah, knowing that that's not like something that shouldn't happen. It's normal and we're just gonna go through it and figure out, how to still reach the goal even though it's an emotional experience, right? And yeah, I think those are the people that are excel in those pressure moments and they're like, yeah, this is normal. and we're still gonna make sure that we reach our goal and not let that be like, this is gonna change me, right? Yeah, that's hard though, man. And I think, like you probably got there more, and so you were more aware of it, and that's where experience makes a huge difference too, I think.
Yeah. But it's funny because some people naturally are really good at that. Uh,
Yeah.
like there's some people, like I even had teammates where, they might not wrestle a good match in certain situations, but anytime, pressure was on, they were going to win it. Like they would figure it out. Then, I had teammates where, pressure comes on and they'd fold, even though they were way better than the person. And I don't know that I was like, I don't think I was bad at it. I was competitive, but I think I took more training than some of my teammates for sure. I definitely had to get in those positions and like understand that feeling. And it's really like, I don't know, what's the stat with Michael Jordan? He's got like more misses for like game winning threes, but he's also got the most game winning threes. Like he took the shots, he put himself in those situations. The hard thing about wrestling, it's a finite amount of time. It's not like you have 30 years of a career doing this. And that's why I think mat time's important and you got to go compete and you got to put yourself in those situations to understand those feelings. But at the end of the day too, you can't hold on to the wins and losses too much because I think that's like detrimental to your performance as well. It's got to be more effort based and progress based, but it's hard. It's hard to do, man. Like we judge everything by wins and losses and how'd you do at the end of the year at the state tournament, national tournament, whatever.
Yeah, it's not a very forgiving experience.
I'd say maybe 80%, and that might be low, of people that I know that have wrestled are pretty dissatisfied with their career.
Yeah,
Not a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm good with wrestling. We're cool. Like most people, I got some demons still.
yeah, yeah.
It's kind of
And
sad.
yeah, and I had somebody, one kid told me like, you don't know what it's like because like you won. I won a NAIA national title, and I'm like,
It's awesome. Yeah.
I mean, I get that, but also like I think about my semifinals loss in the state tournament my high school year a lot. So it's not like one win wipes out all of
Right.
those things either. Like there's still a lot of things I'm like, man, what was I doing there? That's super frustrating. And like those don't go away. You
Yeah.
just, you just do have one tournament where you have none of those thoughts, thankfully.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it's just a tough sport, but it's also, I like being me and I like that I still dwell on some of those. I mean, I enjoy that a little bit. And
What
like,
do you mean by that?
I mean, I don't want to be somebody that doesn't get bothered by that, and doesn't remember the feeling. Like, I like the fact that I still feel those and I don't just forget about them. And, I don't let them keep me moving in the right direction. I don't want to forget about my failures. What point was it to even go out there and fail, if I forget about it? So I value them and I enjoy thinking about them and be like, okay, we're getting up today and we're gonna get after it because don't want that again. So that's the part like I'm like, I like that I'm that way and I don't forget about them.
Yeah, you learn a lot. It is way more motivating, those like powerful lessons where you really fail at something than like everything's going well. It's a lot easier to push it and like really lock in when you have like a deep emotional pain tied to it. So and some people probably take that too far. I think there's a healthy like you got to move on, and learn the lesson. But I totally get it. Like I think feedback is good and like being able to step up to the plate again, use that as motivation and figure out, how do I adjust so that it doesn't happen next time is important in life for sure. And probably one of the best things wrestling teaches you, like sport humbles you. You're not gonna I don't know anybody that's got out of this game, unscathed. Even like a Kale Sanderson, like I guarantee he's had some bad, lessons, losses, stuff like that. So yeah, there's always a bigger fish. You gotta keep showing up to the plate. You gotta keep pushing the boundaries. So it's a cool sport. It really is.
Yeah. All right. If you're gonna recommend a book to somebody to read, what's a book you'd say like, man, that's a great read. You should get that one.
I got 2 books. Influence, it's like a neuroscience book that my wife just coincidentally, someone gave it to her as a birthday present. She, like, was kinda picking through it, wasn't reading it, and I read it, and I was like, "Wow, that's a great book." But just I think in the world of you're in sales, right? It's, like, just very much a great, like I don't know, if you've never read it, check it out. It's a great book on, just, like, the law of reciprocation, how people social influence on things. It's just really interesting how we kind of put meaning to certain things and how we react pretty similarly and recognize patterns without recognizing what we're doing. And then I think Atomic Habits is a great book too. Have you read that?
No, my wife's like, I don't know if you should read this or not. She's read it. I get a little bit like all in on some stuff. And so that was her, and she read it on vacation. I'm like, well, I definitely shouldn't read it on vacation because I'm gonna be like, let's get in the plane. We're going home. I got a lot
Yeah.
of shit to work on, and so I have not read it yet, but we do have it at the house.
It's a good book. I think it's just like it's the power of like the little decisions you make and how, I mean, I have teammates that I felt like we grew up very similarly. We went to the same practices, we went to the same like classes. We did everything very similarly, but then I had, a certain outcome and I'm like, what caused that? And I think there's these little decisions you make day to day and it's like those little things compound over time and also in the wrong way too. If you're making little bad decisions, it compounds. So I really liked Atomic Habits. It was just kind of talking about, we're creatures of habits and there's, little decisions that you can make that alter your life in a big way, or there's little decisions you can make that, positively or negatively. And then also the power of how you can start a new habit with, kind of leveraging old habits as well. Yeah, I don't know. Check it out. I highly recommend it. Your wife probably knows you better than I do, so maybe listen to her too. I don't know.
Yeah.
Spark notes it on ChatGPT or something.
I just gotta read it when we're not, yeah, in a relaxed state of mind,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
don't
will
read on
get fired
vacation.
up. Yeah. All right, last question. If you had a free day, no responsibility, what would you spend it doing?
Man, I like working out, like moving, spending time with my wife, spending time with some friends, getting some good food. If I could sleep in, great. I probably wouldn't be able to sleep in. Probably wake up, have a slow morning, make a nice cup of coffee, make a nice breakfast, go hit a good workout in, get outside. Love to read more. I wish I read more than I do. I try to read most nights, before bed. But I'm somebody that, I like to be productive and maybe that's to a fault sometimes. Like I definitely need to, learn to relax a little bit more. So if I have a free day and I'm able to catch up on some things I've been putting off because of other responsibilities, that's like great too. And then, seeing some friends. It's just amazing how you go from, especially on like a college sports team, being around some of your best friends every day, pretty much, I don't know, 8 hours a day to like, I'll see them twice a year, maybe if I'm lucky. So yeah, I don't know if that really answers your question. There's a
Yeah.
lot in there.
Yeah. So Enoch, he went to Northwestern. That's where I wrestled him at, right? That's like 45 minutes north of Morningside, where I went to school. And he went there for 2 or 3 years. But the coach there did a podcast with me, and he said men like relax by doing things, and we communicate while we're doing things, And I'm like, man, that makes so much sense, because that's me. I love being active with one of my friends doing something where it's like we're gonna build something or do something. Like I love doing things with them and communicating while doing that.
Yeah.
That's like, man, that was a great day. We talked about some awesome stuff, like and got something done. Like those are my great days. Same thing with my wife. If we can actively communicate, communicate while being active, like that's it for me. That's really fun. I know where you're coming from. Like it's not, my wife's like, let's just lay on a beach and not talk. I'm like, I'll do that for you, but that's not filling me up really much. But, like you tell me you love this and I'm going to do it because that's important to me too. Like I want to do
Yeah.
things that you enjoy, but usually after like an hour, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get up. And she's like, okay, go.
Yeah. Yeah, it is fun. That's so true. Like I'm not much of a like just sit down and talk, person. It's like if you can go grab workout in with your buddy or go for a hike or go skiing or something, those are like that's when you have a fun conversation. That's when you're enjoying like you're getting something done, but you're also like spending some quality time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a male, I guess, I don't know, male brain. Um, all right. Where do people find you?
Um
Social media.
Yeah, I guess Instagram is just my name. I don't know, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, whatever, Facebook, all that stuff's the same. And then our podcast is Iron Summit. We're on all platforms too. So yeah, pretty much just Google or search my name on whatever platform, and hopefully I'll come up. Otherwise, I guess something wrong with our SEO.
Yep. And Iron Summit is the podcast, Apple,
Yep.
Spotify, Amazon
Yeah,
Music, everything.
yeah, we're on all that Castbox, YouTube, all that stuff for sure. So just search Iron Summit. Hopefully that comes up in your search bar too.
Nice. Yep. And all the wrestling nerds out there that want to listen, you guys had a good podcast on the NCAA tournament. I really enjoyed that. So they can go back and catch that out. That was a good one.
Thank you. Yeah, we always come back to wrestling stuff. It's fun. We like don't leave the wrestling stuff. Every once in a while we'll have, we've had some world champs on, we have a lot of head coaches on, and then, we'll stray and go to some fitness stuff, but we're always talking wrestling in there too. So if you like wrestling, yeah, check it out for sure.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Ryan, appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yep, me appreciate you doing it. See you around.
Bye.